Greetings from Revealing the Hidden. Hope you all are safe and sound in your own places. And today we are going to discuss yet another important topic, that is temptation. Temptation is a common theme almost all marketing companies are used for making their product attractive. We can see the cake shops names Temptation, and we have restaurants named Temptation. Even we have condoms named Chocolate Temptation, brand name Temptation, even perfume named Temptation. So it is a word literally used to take the attraction of people, even though it is an attraction that is unwise and it is for an evil. So this term we are going to discuss, and today we have a brother Bonhoeffer and Diggory is with us to discuss the same. Welcome morning to this particular episode, and this time we are going to discuss about the term temptation. So what is temptation according to you?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I think temptation is a very easy word to describe among all the conversations that we have had, because temptation is it's self-explanatory. It should tempt us to do something that we may not have done on our own. And I think the basic understanding of temptation in our generation has evolved to accept temptation as something that is usual, something that is very easy, and something that is available casual, ordinary. But I think temptation, the word and the meaning and its consequence goes beyond, because it has the power to affect our lives, and it has the power to create consequences from our own choices.
Yes.
So for me, temptation is where I can choose, and that choices will have consequences for me, not just bad but even good. So if I am able to overcome the temptation, obviously I'll have a reward in terms of strengthening my own self-control. But if I give in to the temptation, I'll have to face consequences. So temptation, I feel, is like a junction point where I can either end up controlling with better control, or I can end up having to face my consequences.
Very nicely explained, Bonnie. So for me, self-control is just one line I can express: lack of self-control. Or I am taking a decision that is unwise and it is more leading me to do evil. So this is the explanation I can think about when I discuss the term temptation. So the next question usually we face is, what are the various temptations we face in everyday life?
There are a lot, and depending upon how each of us lives our lives and the principles, I think the very first thing, as a believer and as a person who prays, I realize that temptation is not something that I need to run away from. It is something that I'm equipped to overcome.
Right.
So I'll just say it again. It sounded nice. Temptation is not something that I want to run away from. It is something that I'm trained or equipped to overcome. So the way how I look at temptation is, it's all around me. It's all around me because I am in this body it's like a fleshly body. It has its own desires. It has its own mind of its own. It has its own needs. So to meet those needs, certain needs are not something that I would want to meet with a sane mind. But if I'm influenced or maybe under influence of alcohol or anything else, then those needs start taking a priority, and then I end up giving in. And just to give a simple example of what a temptation looks like, it looks beautiful.
Right.
I don't see any temptation which looks ugly, which looks detestable. And it not just looks beautiful, let me tell you, temptation also smells sweet. It sounds so like honey dripping from the rock. And that is what temptation is. Temptation looks the most glorious and beautiful thing. Not that all beautiful things are temptations, but yes, it tempts our soul into feeling good about it. For example, if a cold shake of chocolate looks temptatious when you're fasting, or you're taking care of your calorie intake. But then that exactly is like, what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And temptation comes in with its beauty, with its charm. And I'd like to say that all that is glittering is not gold, so goes for temptation. So temptation can come to you in any form, especially in the form that is gloriously beautiful, luxuriously sweet, and even fragrance. Sometimes, it comes in areas where you think that, okay, I'll give an example. You may be wanting to, control your weight, or you may be wanting to avoid certain foods in certain periods of your time, maybe fasting or religious days, and then you get a whiff of the Domino's Burger Pizza or your McD cup fries, and when you kind of smell those, not just see, just smell,
Yes.
it kind of tempts you into just opening your phone, opening the app and ordering it, and getting into that craving. I think temptation has many forms. Most of it is beautiful.
Very nicely said, Bonnie. So when we talk the word temptation, people all think that's something wrong. But yes, people think that some are temptation, whereas what always having women as the weakness or watching pornography is the temptation. So these are considered wrong. But the temptation is equal for all the things as you explained. Temptation towards food or the clothing or accessories or losing my temper, all are equally temptation. So some of the temptation what we can think as tempting to go with addictive things. That is, I want to drink. I'm tempted. So I make a desire and I will go for an addiction. So that can be a temptation, or temptation to lose my temper, or temptation to have a secret partner, even though I have a wife or I have my own spouse, and temptation to lose interest in children. So these are the temptations we can really see among us as well as the people around. And when it is affecting my personal life, or it is affecting my determination and my concentration and my focus of area, then it doesn't matter to be concerned. Especially if I'm a spiritual person where my prayer life is affected, or I'm a person who's into education, if my pattern, my education system is affected, or my output of my work is reduced by being tempted with anything, then I need to be considered about.
In fact, I'd like to add to that. You beautifully pointed out that temptation comes in different forms, but I'll also add to that. Many times temptation does not just come from the outside; it comes from within, and that is something that many times we miss. We try to put all barriers and all boulders and fences on the outside, but we miss that the desire for giving in that temptation comes from within. So while it may be a principle that we follow, for example, getting up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, but there are days when it's so cozy on the outside, the temperature is comfortable and it's raining and you want to lie down for more half an hour, whatever. But that's temptation also. But at the same time, temptation could also be you coming from work and you had an exhausting day, and then suddenly something flips and then you want to kind of burst out into anger. Nobody around to let that anger, but you just you use your words and you give in to that anger. That anger did not come from outside, it comes from within.
Right.
But then, so temptation comes from all forms. I think it's not just on the outside, but also within.
So next we'll see, Bonnie, when the temptation needs to be considered very important.
So I think with temptation, as we spoke, that it comes from different forms, it comes in different areas of our lives. Most of the time it comes from within. There are some temptations, as we just spoke, in one example where you're sleeping and you want to just lie down for 15-20 minutes. It's no harm to lie down, but then if you have a job interview or if you have a big client presentation to make, that 15-20 minutes will be expensive and will be costly. So temptations can come in various forms, but the way how we draw the line between temptation is where our priority lies, where our goals lie, where our discipline lies. That is something that temptation, those lines are something that any temptation cannot cross. When it crosses, we are giving into temptation. So, for example, if you always are somebody who follows a set pattern of dealing with things, or you have a regime and you're following a diet plan, Now those are discipline oriented goals. So temptation would come into a time where somebody would say, oh, you can have one cheat day, you can have a pizza, you can go and have that juice or whatever, sugary juice, and those are your temptations. Those may not be harmful on its own because it's your colleague or your boss saying that, but then it has the power to upset all the work that you have done. So one small choice, one small decision which can upset your regime or your discipline or your goal or even your medical history. So those are things that we need to be aware of, that they have the power to make that temptation into a costly affair. So there are some things that I think are simple, like if you're not having a diet plan and you go for that extra scoop of ice cream, I don't think that's a harm. You're giving it a temptation not at an extra cost. But if you know that sweet is a problem for you, or if you know that you're diabetic and you need to control your sugar, then that scoop is going to be very, very expensive.
Yeah, nicely said, Bonnie. So I would say that temptation is dangerous or to be considered in a longer run if I'm losing my life, as you already said about the extra scope. If I'm on dieting or if I'm worried about my sugar levels, so this is affecting my life, costing my life. If I'm losing my job because I'm going behind the temptation, if I'm losing my determination, if I'm losing my education, I'm losing my family, then these things I need to be very considerate. I need to consider temptation as dangerous when I face attachment issues. That means I'm tempted to different men. So what happens when I get married? I'm not able to attach to my husband. So this is called attachment issues. So this also can be seen if you are exposed to a lot of temptation of making a relationship. Then temptation is affected when my mindful nature is affected. Then as I already told before, when my determination is affected, I need to be careful. When I'm completely focused, there was a time I was completely focused and I used to score good marks, so I used to get good ranks, and now I'm deteriorating because I'm tempted to do various things, watching movies or playing or being with someone. Then this temptation I need to be beware, because that transforms the entire personality of mine where I'm demotivated or de-aligned with the focus I was priorly planned for. So I think these are some of the things we need to be really careful when the word temptation used. So temptation is not a very good term, as media shows that something is always attractive. Temptation can destroy you as well. And today we are discussed what are the various temptations we can see and how public see the word temptation, how media explain the word temptation, and how temptation can be dangerous in our life. So with this we are winding up this session, and next session we are coming up how we can manage and overcome the temptation that is all around 24/7. Till we meet the next time, stay safe and stay happy. Thank you.